Welcome into the NFL Opening Line Report, week number 13. I am Drew Martin, joined, as always, by Teddy Covers at Teddy_Covers on Twitter. We're getting you on the right side of some of these moves, both sides and totals. Without further ado, Teddy, welcome on in. Happy Monday morning to you, buddy.
Hey, great to be here, Drew. And of course, Thanksgiving week, man, there's nothing like it when it comes to betting on football. There's something about this week. Christmas doesn't touch it. New Year's doesn't touch it. Thanksgiving week is like the ultimate NFL week. So hopefully we'll be able to get you some good info today and get you on some of the right sides of these line moves, because obviously Monday morning, we know what's going on. The markets are moving. Let's see if we can take advantage.
There are some games moving here. And guys, it's a condensed week. Usually we just have that one Thursday game. We actually got 3 of them this week. We got a game on Friday as well. And then, of course, the Sunday slate and Monday nighters. We'll be hitting that here on today's show. We do have the Baltimore Ravens, LA Chargers up here, Teddy. -2 and a hook, -3. That's the Ravens is the road favorite, 51 being the total. Just quickly, Monday Night Football, did you want to throw anything out?
Yeah, so this line really is a split line. All right. If you want the Ravens, you can find a 2.5. They're widely available. If you want the Chargers, you can find a +3. They're certainly out there. Not as widely available as they were at the open, but this is key to winning your bets. All right. Laying 2.5, taking 3, that matters. Over the long term, that matters a lot. So I don't know if the line's going to close 2.5 or 3. I really don't. It may close different at different books. You know, we've seen a fair bit of Charger support, but not overwhelming Charger support. And we've seen some buyback. Once it went back to 2.5, once it was 2.5 across the board, we've seen people bet up a Baltimore back to -3. So I really don't know where this side is going. And I couldn't tell you if it's going to close 2.5 or 3, and it may well close split. From a total standpoint, I mean, we've seen a little bit of over money. Not surprising. Baltimore's been something of an over team this year, despite what we saw last week against Pittsburgh. Total 50.5, 51 right now. And again, we're talking about an opener 47, 47.5. But all that money moved earlier in the week. At the current number, it's not going higher than 51. I'll put it at that. So if you want under, 51 is a good number to get. If you want over, well, you can find 50.5 as we speak.
Great start here, Teddy, as we're going to open it up, opening line report style here. Thanksgiving Day, Thursday, November 28th. We get 305, 306, Chicago and Detroit, Teddy. First game up for the week. We are seeing the Lions. Man, talk about a money printer. Detroit Lions, probably the most profitable team in North American sports over the last couple of years. -10 in the hook. Home favorites, 48.5 being the total. Bears at Lions from the Motor City to kick off the week here, TC.
So if you watch the show every week, you already know the drill. I'm going to give you 4 sets of lines. This is your first time watching or you're not familiar with the WagerTalk NFL Opening Line Report. This is what I do. I'll give you the look-ahead line from last week. All right, that's a bettable line. I use the Westgate Superbook numbers. Other books have them, but I use the Westgate numbers. A bettable line from last week on this game so we can see how much the one result affected the point spread. I'm going to give you my power rating number for these two teams. Power rating number does not factor in situations at all. It's just team A, team B, home field. I'm going to give you the opener from last night, and I'll call it the consensus opener. I track 5 different books at the open, and what I consider the consensus opener, I usually put it up. I usually write these down around halftime of the Sunday night football game, and then we'll talk about where the money has come from that opener, what the lines are doing this morning. So Bears and Lions, look-ahead line. Detroit -11.5, total 49.5. My powering number, Detroit -12.5. I've got the Lions 2 points better than any team in the league right now. Baltimore, Buffalo, KC, whoever you want to have as the second best team. I've got Detroit nearly a field goal better than anybody else. That's why I'm at 12.5. And I've done that because the Lions are a team I don't want to step in front of. And one of my powering numbers says, don't step in front of them. I'm not going to do it. Line open 10.5, 48 last night. And yeah, that's what we're looking at 10.5, 48 this morning. Detroit is a special team. All right. They're certainly a special regular season team. What we're seeing from the Lions is that type of week in, week out, you can rely on this team type of, of football. And of course, Detroit's been spot proof. They've been, we're going to blow them out in the first half, and then, we're not letting them get back in the second half, continuing to put the pedal to the metal. Detroit's been a money printing machine, and the books are getting buried with Lions money every week. So Thanksgiving Day, you're not getting a whole lot of point spread bargains for Detroit at minus 10.5, even though my number is 12.5. And of course, they played this complimentary football. Look at the first downs the last 2 weeks: 38-10 versus the Jags. Yesterday it was 26-11 against the Colts. How about this? The Lions have won 9 in a row. Only 3 of those wins have come by fewer than 10 points, and 3 of them have been by more than 37 points. All right. Defensively, they've been phenomenal of late. Dan Campbell, this is whatever it is, 10 quarters without allowing a touchdown. In the last 3 games in the second half, we're not allowing it. We talk about it all the time. Limiting points, play physical style, shut down the run. We were able to do that. Dan Campbell, we have an identity about us. We know the critical factors they pertain to winning, and these guys take that stuff serious. We've been around each other long enough, and they've been around each other long enough to know exactly what we're looking for. So, Detroit's a team I have no interest in stepping in front of, and little interest in backing. They're hard, there's not a ton of value with the most public team in the NFL. The Bears, there were some really positive signs yesterday. All right. Caleb Williams threw the ball all over the field, a handful of, unbelievable throws. The kid is a howitzer arm. You can understand why he was the number 1 overall pick in the draft. And yet they lost their 5th straight game. 3 of them have been decided on the final play. They're 5-18 now in one-possession games under Matt Eberflus. And there were some issues yesterday. The defense couldn't stop anything. They gave up 200-yard receivers and a 100-yard back and allowed 7 yards per play. The Vikings were in the red zone 7 different times. They had a bad muff punt lead to a cheap Minnesota touchdown. That ended up being the difference in the game. And Caleb Williams after. I think we got better in all 3 phases. We've gotten better over these past couple games. I think today was a testament to that, being decisive, receivers and everybody. Yeah, except for that your defense sucked and your special team sucked again, which could be a concern. I made a case for the over for this game on WagerTalk today. I did a big game breakdown talking about this. It'll be a free standalone solo video. We'll post that later in the day. But my lean here is over with Caleb Williams chucking the football around. For as good as the Lions defense has been, I think Chicago has a decent chance to trade points with Detroit in a series that really doesn't have a whole lot of blowouts.
Yeah, except for your defense and your special teams. That was very well played there, Teddy. We get 307, 308 up next, guys. Rotation order: New York Giants, Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys minus 4-point home favorites, 39 being the total. The middle game on Thanksgiving, Giants and Cowboys, TC.
Yeah, look ahead line, Dallas minus 2, total 41.5. My powering number, Dallas minus 5. Which tells us where I think about the Giants. I got the Giants dead last in my power range right now. They were a quick team yesterday. Markets opened 3.5 and 38 last night. We're seeing 4s and even some 4.5 starting to pop up for Dallas this morning, despite the fact the Cowboys haven't won a home game and I don't even know how long. And they trailed by 20 or more in their last 6 home games now? Although the Giants offense isn't good enough to do that. Nonetheless, we have seen over money. We have seen Dallas money. And look, Tommy DeVito's not an NFL starting quarterback. Everybody knows this already. But what we saw yesterday was not just Tommy DeVito stinking. It was a team that quit. Defense, no sacks. They allowed 4 touchdowns and 5 red zone tries. Obviously, when you're benching and then releasing your starting quarterback for no reason, then they lost Jeff tackle Jermaine Illuminor on the opening drive that put the 3rd string tackle into the game for the lowest scoring offense in the league. But some of the quotes after the game, Illuminor after the game, quote, "I personally don't think everyone's giving 100%. Dexter Lawrence, we played soft and they beat the shit out of us. Brian Burns, I'm trailing at home 30-0 after their bye week. Quote, that's ass. Malik Neighbors, the rookies, throwing shots after the game. Go out there first. He didn't get a target in the first half, by the way. Go out there first, second quarter, don't get the ball, start getting target at the end. You can't do that. Start getting the ball when it's 30-0. What do you want me to do? I don't know. Talk to DeBall about that." Yeah, the Giants are unbackable. All right. They're unbackable. They're, the coach will be gone. The quarterback will be gone. They showed on the field they quit. They're on a short week with travel. Not my money. I'll put it that way. Meanwhile, the Cowboys played the drunkest 4th quarter of the year yesterday. This is a team that has more than $100 million in salary cap space on injured reserve right now. Dak Prescott, DeMarcus Lawrence, Zach Martin, Trayvon Diggs, Brandon Cooks. Their best offensive lineman, Tyler Smith, was ruled out. They had 2 missed field goals attempts. They had a deflected punt. They had a penalty on a kickoff. And they won the game. Obviously, it was an insane game. The first game in the Super Bowl era to have 2 missed extra points, 2 kickoff return touchdowns, and a block punt. Cooper Rush, afterwards, a lot of games left. We're sitting at 4-7. This is why you play them. Positive signs for Dallas, none for the Giants. I can only play Dallas, and I don't know if I want to play Dallas at home. I really don't. So I can understand why the early money's come for the Cowboys, but I'm not convinced they're a team that we want to lay points with. Again, Dallas really did their best to let Washington get back in the game yesterday. Washington just was unable to take advantage.
Teddy, we've got one game left here on Thursday, 309, 310, as the viewers and a lot of people out there are going to be cozy in their couch, likely on Thanksgiving night. We get Miami and Green Bay, 47 in the hook. Packers -3. There is -3.5 out there as the home favorite. Hey, the Dolphins have been playing good football, but heading up north this time of year, hey, as a lifelong Dolphins fan, Teddy, that doesn't always work out well. I'll throw it over to you, Dolphins and Packers to end Thanksgiving night.
Look ahead line, Green Bay 3.5 and 47. My powering number, Green Bay 3.5. The market's open 3.5 last night, and it's still a split line today. If you want Miami, you can find 3.5. If you want Green Bay, you can lay 3. I don't know how long that's going to last. Total, we've seen a little bit of over money, 47.5. Now we're seeing some 48. I mean, a couple of 48s out there, nothing significant. To be honest, this side and total really hadn't done a whole lot since the opener. Positive signs for Miami. That was the best Tua's looked all year yesterday. Really was. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Jonnu Smith all had big receiving games. They outgained New England 5.7 yards per play to 4.3. There is a concern they couldn't run the football, even with the lead, 24 carries, 65 yards on the ground. That is definitely a concern here against the Packers, because that's one of the things you want to do against Green Bay is run the football. The quotes coming out of the team are very positive. Out of the locker room, Tua, who entered the game having completed 73% of his passes for the season. That was first in the NFL. 11 touchdowns versus only 1 pick since returning from injured reserve. Obviously, they faced a weak schedule during that span. I like this quote in terms of bet on for Miami. Quote from Tua: "We're still below the 500 threshold, and it's a long way to where we want to get to. We'll enjoy this win, but this next one is going to be big for us." And they've been talking about this game literally since their bye week, when they looked at the schedule and saw we got 3 patsies and then we got to go to Green Bay, and Green Bay's the game we can get to 500 at. It's a quote I remember seeing from a couple of weeks ago, and it's clearly a game where the focus will be there for Miami, even though some of the results in cold weather haven't been all that great. As for the Packers, yesterday was pretty easy. For Green Bay, real easy for Green Bay. San Fran didn't show up, and a lot of positive things nonetheless. Jordan Love, it's the NFL. They've got good players. We had injuries. Guys are banged up. You got to find a way to win no matter who's out there. It's tough for them, but we'll take the win 30-10, obviously. Josh Jacobs became the first player in the last 55 regular season games to rush for 100-yard against the 49ers. The longest, by the way, a team had gone without allowing a 100-yard rusher since 1955. Green Bay accomplished something with that. And Jacobs' quote after the game really stood out to me. Quote, "I came here to Green Bay because I'd seen them winning." A guy who spent his first 5 seasons with the Raiders. "I have won a lot in my career. That was a big thing for me when I'm making a decision." Not only that, man, being around these guys, seeing how hungry they are, seeing how much pros they are on a day-to-day basis, and how much it means to them, man, it makes me want to play harder. It makes me want to give everything I have. Certainly there's some positive chemistry in the Packers locker room right now. A team that's playing with some confidence.
Teddy, I'll wait for questions at the end, except for this one specific, because it's due to this game. I'm seeing 30 degrees, snow showers, wind 10 to 15 miles an hour at Green Bay on Thursday. How does that affect your handicap? Because for me as a Dolphin, lifelong watching this team, it affects it a lot, actually.
So it was a couple of years ago that Miami had to go up to Buffalo for the playoff game. And again, It was nasty. And they threw the football around. They were in that game the whole way. They lost, I think, by a field goal at the end. Don't
wire to wire
the
cover.
Dolphins teams from when you were a kid are not this Dolphins team.
Fair enough. All right, we'll turn the page. Black Friday, November 29th, Las Vegas and Kansas City. So we get a divisional rivalry game here, Black Friday. 42 being the total, minus 13. That's the Chiefs as the home favorite in Arrowhead.
And I apologize. I'm going to look at this. I can't tell if I wrote a 40. I think it's a 44. I can't tell what the freaking total is for this game, the opener. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm
it's either a
41
or a 44.
Opener.
No, it's 44. That's right. 12 and a half, 44 was a look-ahead line here, Kansas City and the Raiders. My powering number is also 12 and a half. The markets opened 13 and 42 and a half last night, and that's basically where we're sitting today. There were some, for Kansas City, some positive signs yesterday. 6.3 yards per carry for the Chiefs. That's impressive. 7.3 yards per pass attempt. Although Mahomes was sacked 5 times. Noah Gray was their leading receiver. That's not what you want. Patrick Mahomes, 21st game-winning drive in his career. KC has won a game decided in the final seconds 5 times this season. 8 of their wins this year. What do they have? 10 wins? 8 of the 10 have come by 1-score margins. They're not an easy team to lay any price with. Patrick Mahomes after the game. You always want to have some blowouts to be a little calmer in the fourth quarter, but I always said it could be a good thing knowing when you get to the playoffs later in the season, knowing you've been in these moments before and know how to attack it play by play and not making it too big of the moment. But I would say this more than anyone. I would love to win a game, not by the very last play. And I think there is some urgency for KC in that regard. Can we lay this price? I can't lay 2 touchdowns or ask the Chiefs to win by 2 touchdowns. They're just not winning that game. But, they haven't won that game away all year. They didn't win that way last year. Playing on a short week, I'm not going to ask them to do it. So do you want the Raiders? Hell no. When you have the most giveaways in the NFL and the fewest takeaways in the NFL, that's a bad combo. They came into yesterday's game at minus 15 in turnovers. Only 5 takeaways. That's number 32. 20 giveaways. That's the number 30. So there are 2 teams, I think, at 21 or something. And, of course, yesterday the defense forced no turnovers. The offense turned it over twice. The quarterbacks got sacked 5 times. Gardner Minshew left the game. It looks like there's a broken collarbone. Aiden O'Connell's coming off IR. And they have Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder's quote, "I've been here almost a month, and now I feel confident with the offense. I'm ready to go." Of course, he was 5 of 10 for 64 yards and lost a fumble on a sack. So whatever the situation may be, it's not up to me. It's up to the higher power, but I'm ready for any situation they may be. Desmond Ridder's not going to beat Kansas City. So, right. So then you have Aiden O'Connell. All right. Aiden O'Connell's the guy who has been on injured reserve all year, who was okay for Las Vegas as a rookie last year, but certainly no one who's going to transform the franchise. And he lost the job. He didn't win the job in camp. He lost the job to Gardner Minshew in camp, which tells us about whether Aiden O'Connell, who has been on IR with a thumb injury. Antonio Pierce, quote, "We're going to need somebody, right? We're running out of quarterbacks too now, so we'll see what happens." But obviously it looks like O'Connell's getting better. He threw a little bit in practice this week. Obviously we got a short week, play on Friday, travel on Thursday, so we'll have to make that decision very quickly. I'm not sure that O'Connell or Ridder is going to move the needle on the point spread between the two. That being said, I mean, riddled with injuries. They played the game without their top 2 running backs. They're both starters at cornerback. They're missing 2 on the defensive line. They missed a safety. They've lost 7 consecutive games. The Raiders have. That's their longest skid since 2017. And yet the quotes, Max Crosby, quote, "I never doubt the mindset of everybody in that locker room. Everyone shows up every day with the mindset to get better. That's all you can ask for." Sean Payton, after beating Vegas yesterday, quote, "Credit Vegas. They came out and had some fire about them, but they lost. That may well happen here as well."
Turning the page to Sunday, December 1st. Welcome to the month of December. 10 a.m. Pacific kicks up first. 461, 462, Tennessee and Washington. We are seeing Washington minus 5 in the hook as the home favorite. 44.5 being the total. Tennessee at Washington, top of the card on Sunday in our nation's capital, Teddy.
Yeah, let me give you guys some promos before we get into here. Obviously, it's Thanksgiving week, And Thanksgiving week's an insane betting week. It's like the ultimate NFL betting week. It really is. It's a lot of fun. That being said, bet with your head, not over it. This is a week where if you have gambling addiction issues, they tend to come to a head. You have to be able to watch games without betting on them. You have to be able to go through life without thinking about betting all the time. If you're having issues, call and get some help, because this time of year, it can be a big deal. I do have a couple of promos. TC365, that's going to get you all 1 year all access for $99 a month. Every play, every day, every sport. TC365 at checkout. You can get $50 off any 30-day pass. That's all access. NFL 30-day pass, college football, NBA, football combo code, whatever you want. $50 off any 30-day pass. Just use promo code Teddy30 at checkout. So TC365 for 1 year, all access. Teddy30 for any 30-day all access pass. Two great deals right now on my page, wt.buzz/TC. And the NFL has been good to us. 67% over the last 9 weeks in the NFL. We're making money. And obviously a 5% big ticket for Monday Night Football if you want to get on board. We talk about Tennessee and Washington. Look ahead line, Commanders 843.5. My powering number 5.5 for the game. And the markets agree with my powering number. Opened 5.5 last night, total 43.5, 44. We've seen over money come today. That's been the big line mover on this one. 44.5, the current prevailing total. The 5.5 really hasn't moved off the opener. The Titans, I had the Titans yesterday plus the points in Houston, and that game made me freaking crazy. All right. Will Levis was sacked 8 times. He was under constant pressure. He held the ball way too long again and again. And yet he finished with 11.6 yards per pass attempt and 2 touchdowns. They ran the football effectively all day. Tony Pollard, 24 for $119. Levis threw a pick 6. They fumbled a freaking punt return in the game. So you lose 2 possessions. You give up a cheap touchdown, and they still won straight up as underdogs, which tells you the potential for Tennessee. You know, despite all of those screw-ups, despite those mistakes, they found a way to win the game. The run defense was absolutely dominant, as it's been for much of the season. Joe Mixon, 14 rushes, 14 carries for just 22 yards. Explosive passing game. 3 plays of 30 yards or more, just like they did last week against Minnesota. Coach Callahan, after the game, I'm really proud of Will. He's done a lot of things to get him back in the right place mentally and physically. It was a really good performance. And of course, Levis himself. It feels awesome. A lot of people are working really hard to get a win like this. I'm just happy for the organization top down. You do wonder about an exhale for Tennessee, who's been fighting hard without getting a victory. And this could be the exhale game. Now they got one. That being said, I mean, the Commanders, what do we do with Washington right now? The 7-2 start? Now they're 0-3 their last 3. The Cowboys defense entered that game, 29th in scoring, 23 in yards. Washington couldn't move the football in that game. 319 yards yesterday. That's the first time in the 3-game span they've gotten 300. Remember, this offense didn't punt for like 2.5 games earlier this year. All right. Now they're struggling with the football. What's up? Well, we got game film on Jaden Daniels, and the offensive line's banged up. Last 3 games, the running backs just 3.2 yards per carry, 181 yards combined. And obviously yesterday they found a way to rally back to tie the game, and then lost on the missed extra point, and then the onside kick got returned for a touchdown. Insanity. Jaden Daniels, quote, anytime you lose a game or you lose a game in that type of fashion, it's very difficult and it's tough, but it never comes down to one play. There's plays throughout the game where little things add up to big things. Lots of injuries. Austin Eckler got concussed on the kickoff return, taken to the hospital. That's a concern. Brian Robinson left with an ankle injury, returned, and then he left again. Andrew Wiley, the right tackle, concussed in the 3rd quarter. The center, Tyler B.A., I always mess up how to pronounce his last name, the kid out of Northwestern, he got a concussion in the game as well. Marshawn Lattimore still hasn't been in the lineup. Not sure he's going to get there with his hamstring injury. So Washington, for as good as they were earlier in the season, I think it's a Commander spot. I'm not sure I'm comfortable laying 5.5 of them.
Teddy, we'll move down the list here. 463, 464, 10 a.m. Pacific kick. It's the LA Chargers and the Atlanta Falcons. We're seeing mostly -1.5. That's the Chargers as the road favorite, 47 being the total. Do note the Chargers playing Monday Night Football, so it's a short week with travel here for the Chargers side of things, Teddy. Chargers at Falcons from the ATL.
Yeah, some of these are going to be short because I'm going long on the others, and there's lots of games like this one where there's not that much to discuss. Atlanta, -1, total of 45 was the look-ahead line. My powering number has the Chargers -1. As you mentioned, the openers has Chargers. There was picks, anywhere from pick to 1.5 for the Chargers at the open, 48. And obviously we've seen pretty much that's the way it is now. You can get pick, you can get -1, you can get +1, you can get +1.5. Looking at the free WagerTalk live odds screen, that will change after the game tonight, as you mentioned, the Monday Night Football against the Ravens. And then they have a short week traveling east for an early start game, which is not an optimal spot. The Falcons, certainly a much better spot from a spot standpoint. It stands out for Atlanta. Chargers off Monday Night Football on a short week, traveling west to east for an early start game. Atlanta's off a bye following back-to-back losses, falling late against New Orleans and blowout at Denver. Clear Falcon spot. I'm surprised. I would not be surprised if we see Atlanta take some money, whether the Chargers win or lose this evening.
Next one up, 465, 466, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. It is 47 being the total with the Bengals -2.5. Looks like a -3 out there, but mostly 2.5 in juice. Bengals hosting the Steelers. Next game up, Teddy.
Look at line, Cincy 2.5, 47.5. My powering number is only 1 for the Bengals. The market's open 2.5 and 47 last night, so a slight tick to the under. And that's pretty much what we're looking at right now. You know, I mean, Pittsburgh, they allowed only 1 of 10 on third downs against Cleveland, but then they gave up 4 of 4 on fourth downs. It was different of the game. They had 35 minutes of possession. They were +2 in turnovers and still lost as favorites. That's a red flag. That being said, they rallied back from a double-digit deficit on the road, and then they shanked a punt, which set up Cleveland for the game-winning touchdown drive. Those aren't huge negatives. Interesting, the comments from George Pickens, the wide receiver, after the game. Conditions played a huge part in today's game. I don't really think the Cleveland Browns are a good team at all. I think the conditions kind of saved them today. That's what I'm saying. Well, the conditions and the away game refs. You don't usually hear Steelers players complaining about the weather. That being said, you know, Russell Wilson, through 3 quarters, only had 3 incompletions and 204 passing yards. There's things to like about Pittsburgh. I don't take too much away from the loss against Cleveland on the short week, and they will have extra time to prepare here. Of course, Cincy has extra time to prepare well. They're off a bye, but they're 4-7 with a 1-point loss to the Ravens and the last-minute loss to the Chargers after McPherson's missed field goals. I'm interested to see if Cincy comes and plays with passion down the stretch at 4-7. The Bengals are a team, again, the veteran teams that aren't going to the postseason. Sometimes, I'm not going to say they look like the Giants, but sometimes you don't get the full level of effort from those squads down the stretch of some of these ball games. So my initial lean towards Pittsburgh plus before I would take Cincinnati minus, even though the Bengals are coming off a bye.
NFL opening line report each and every Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Teddy covers, Drew Martin breaking it down for you guys. Remember the promo code TC365 at checkout. 1 year all access with Teddy covers, coming out to just $99 a month. We got the Thanksgiving special as well. 7-day pass for only $69 starting at midnight tonight. So you can get both of those with Teddy covers or myself, Drew Martin. 5% up for Monday Night Football. Great day to check out the website. And Teddy, we get 467, 468 up next. Indianapolis and New England. Colts -2.5, 42.5 being the total.
I correct you with the utmost of respect and humility. But if you want the 7-day all access pass, you can get it at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific time tonight. You don't have to wait till midnight if you want to get on board for the all access.
Nice catch.
Though that is not available as we record now, it will be available tonight again after 5 o'clock Pacific. You get that 7-day all access, just $69. A great look, you want to spend a couple of bucks and get every play for Thanksgiving week. This is the deal if you want to get on board with a serious package and partner up and let's make some money long term. The other two possibilities are also good deals, but they're more expensive. So $69, 7-day all access starts again 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern tonight on Monday. We're talking about the Colts and the Patriots right now. And Indy, look ahead line, -241. powering number -2.5. Markets opened Colts -2.5, 42.5 last night. And we're seeing threes pop and 2.5 with juice just about everywhere right now for Indy. New England total isn't doing anything, still sitting at 42.5, but we have seen some Colts money for this ball game. And I'm not surprised. The Colts had a rough day yesterday against Detroit. Jonathan Taylor, just 11 carries for 35 yards. They couldn't run. Anthony Richardson, 17 incompletes to 11 completes. That's not going to get it done against elite teams. They were out first down, 26-11. They were flagged for a season high 8 offensive penalties. First loss in which Indy hadn't committed a turnover, didn't commit a single turnover since they lost to the Raiders on January 2nd, 2022. And the Colts have now lost 4 of their last 5 games. And the only win came in come-from-behind fashion against the Jets, not the most confident team right now. That being said, they faced the Lions, the Bills, the Vikings, the Texans. Nothing to be shamed with any of those losses. You look at them down the stretch, bottom feeders, man. Pats, Titans, Giants, Jags. The only step up is at Denver. Indy, a team that has potential to make some noise down the stretch despite their recent struggles, given that schedule. Shane Steichen, quote, "We got to take advantage of our opportunities. This league comes down to inches, comes down to yards, and you got to take advantage. We've had issues down in the red zone. You have to look at the tape and clean it up." The Colts certainly didn't play a clean game yesterday. The Patriots, they played competitively in each of the last 4 games. Remember when Mayo called out the team for playing soft? Was that in Munich or when they were over in Europe? And then since then, they played 4 solid games. Not yesterday. Yesterday they got bombed. They had 9 penalties in the first half. And if they can't run, they can't win. Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson combined 14 carries, 44 yards, and 42 dropbacks with the rookie QB. That's a 3-to-1 ratio of pass attempts to running back attempts. That's not what New England can't win that way. Yards per play, 4.3 to 5.7. The offense didn't even get to the red zone. And don't be fooled by the final score. Their last touchdown came on a 63-yard fumble return with the backup quarterback in for Miami on his first handoff that Christian Gonzalez returned. This offense didn't work yesterday. The defense didn't work. Now New England has clinched their 3rd straight season below 500 for the first time since 91 to 93. A couple of quotes worth noting. Drake May, I always say I hate losing more than I like to win. We got our butts whipped today, and it's only up from here. We got a bright future and the right players in there for the Patriots. So trying to put a positive sign on it. Jared Mayo, quote, "Once those guys cross the white lines, there's nothing I can do for them. There's nothing any coach can do for them. It's my job to continue to prepare not only them, but our coaches as well." Yeah, no surprise here if this line gets to 3 everywhere. If you like Indy, I bet it's sooner rather than later.
Couple early kicks up next. Houston and Jacksonville, -5 flat. That's the Texans as the road favorite. 43 being the total in North Florida, TC.
Look ahead line, Houston -7 and 42. My powering number -7. That's a Trevor Lawrence is not playing power rating number. We've seen some money and some line moves that indicate that Trevor Lawrence could be playing in this ballgame. But my power rating number, that is a Mac Jones power rating number. And I think it's a pretty significant difference between the two. Not just in terms of their abilities, but in terms of how Jacksonville is going to respond and if they're going to be capable of playing. I want no part of them with Mac Jones behind center. If Trevor Lawrence plays, maybe we see some signs in that ballgame. Anyhow, the market's opened 5.5, 6 last night, total of 43. And as I mentioned, we're seeing 5s with some 5.5s this morning. It will move. This line will move. 43 still the total as Trevor Lawrence's status is determined. As for Houston, Houston's been they're not a team to lay a touchdown with. 12 of their last 15 wins have come by a TD or less. So when they win, they don't win by margin. Certainly not division games. That hasn't been a win by margin scenario for the Houston Texans. They had 0 rushing first downs yesterday, only 12 first downs in the game. They had a pick 6 and recovered a fumble and still lost of a fumble punt and still lost straight up as a favorite. The defense forced 3 turnovers. They won the turnover battle, and they still lost straight up as a favorite. Penalties have been a problem. 11 penalties again. Kai Fairburn obviously missed a 28-yard field goal to tie, and then a safety at the very end to make the 5-point decision. CJ Stroud, quote, "It's no secret that I have been playing well. I've got to be harder on myself. I'm not going to hold my head down. I know I can be a great player, but I've got to make better play. Stroud, of course, with more interceptions in 9 games this season than he had in 15 games as a rookie last year. D'Amico Ryans, just disappointing loss for us. We didn't do anything well enough to win this game. Out of all the positives we did have, there were way too many negatives. Although positives, their pass rush was absolutely dominant. Yeah, Will Anderson Jr. returned back in the lineup after missing the last 2 games. And with Anderson on one side and Danielle Hunter on the other side, it's a really tough pass rush to stop. So that could be a problem for a Jacksonville team that is, 0-4 their last 4, off a 12-7 home loss to the Vikings and a 52-6 loss to Detroit. And they've had offensive line issues all year. So it could be a big matchup advantage in Houston's favor, but Houston hasn't been real good at covering these type of numbers.
We get Arizona and Minnesota up next. It looks like the Vikings -3.5 across the board as the home favorite. 45 and a hook being the total. Cardinals at Vikings. Next game up, TC.
Look ahead line, Minnesota -3, total of 48. My powering number has the Vikings 4. The markets opened last night, split number 3.5/4, total of 46. And as we look today, we've seen a little bit of under money, 45.5/45, the total. And the 4s mostly have been taken out. There's still a couple out there, but many more. The 4s, the 3.5 is widely available. The 4 you have to shop for right now for the Vikings and the Cardinals. So we've seen a little bit of Arizona money and a little bit of money towards the under. And the Cardinals offense didn't really work yesterday. Kyler Murray got sacked 5 times. James Conner and Trey Benson just 11 carries for 26 yards on the ground. The offensive line didn't hold up well. They had 0 rushing first downs. Another team without a single rushing first down yesterday. They went 0 for 2 in the red zone. Arizona had converted 16 straight touchdown tries in goal-to-go situations coming into yesterday's game and settled for field goals in that regard. Kyler Murray, quote, obviously it's a hostile environment. We just didn't execute at a high enough level to win that game. So it's an emergency for Arizona after stinking yesterday. Minnesota did some real nice things. They blew an 11-point lead in the final 22 seconds of regulation. That always comes with an onside kick recovery. Sam Darnold, you're expecting to recover the onside kick and then just take some knees. So your mindset is you got to get ready to go back out there and execute at a high level. And I feel like our offense did a really good job of that, obviously, in overtime. They had 7 trips to the red zone on offense, 7.0 yards per play on offense. Defense only gave up 5.5. Justin Jefferson completely shut down yesterday. He had 1 catch going into OT, finished with 2 catches for 27 yards. What happened? Jordan Addison, 100 receiving yards. TJ Hawkinson, 100 receiving yards. Aaron Jones, 106 on the ground. That's positive. When your best player gets shut down and you move the football all around with a bunch of other guys stepping up, Kevin O'Connell, quote, football's a game where you got to be able to respond. It's never going to be perfect. This group is a special group, and it's a road win in the NFC North, and I'm really proud of our team. Got to worry about Minnesota potentially being a little fat and happy as well against a non-divisional foe.
Last early kick up next, guys, 10 a.m. Pacific here. It's the Seattle Seahawks and the New York Jets. We are seeing 41 as the total. And -1.5 to as high as -2.5 here. That is the Seahawks as the road favorite. Early kick, West Coast to East Coast here. Seattle at the New York Jets, Teddy.
Yeah, the Westgate had the Jets as 1-point favorites on the look-ahead line. Total 43.5. That did not last. My powering number is Seattle 1.5. The markets opened 1.5 and 42 last night. And we're seeing lots of 2s, even 2.5s popping up for the Seahawks. If you like Seattle, I would probably play them sooner rather than later. Seahawks really a dominant defensive showing yesterday. Leonard Williams, 6 tackles, 4 quarterback hurries. They had a leadership meeting. He talked about after the game. They had a leadership meeting following their bye week 2 weeks ago. And they declared the rest of the season, quote, a playoff run. Quote, I don't think that made it just crunch time for us. We understood the urgency of getting the job done. And they're able to do it in a game where they only scored 16 points and the passing game shut down for extended stretches. Of course, the Jets, any bet on the Jets is a leap of faith that I'm not going to make. They're 3-8. 2 of the 3 wins came against the Titans and the Pats. The third came at home on a short week against Houston. They're off a 1-point blown lead to the Colts and the bye week after that debacle no-show game against Arizona. The GM's already been fired. The head coach has already been fired. The offense coordinator's already been demoted. There's nothing they're going to do. Aaron Rodgers' signing has cost a lot of people their jobs, and I'm not convinced that Rodgers won't cost more people their jobs before this season is through.
On to the afternoon kicks up next. 475, 476, making our way down in rotation order using the WagerTalk live odds screen. It is 1:05 p.m. Pacific kick. Tampa Bay and Carolina. Buccaneers -6 at most shops. There is 5.5 out there. 46 in the hook being the total.
Look headline, Tampa -7 and 41. My powering number, Tampa -5. Markets opened 5.5/6, 46.5 last night. And we're seeing mostly 6s, right? There are a couple of 5.5s out there for Carolina, but mostly -6, mostly 46.5 as we speak. Baker was really good yesterday. 24-30, 294, no interceptions, no sacks. The team had 4 rushing touchdowns. It was 30-0 before garbage time. Yards per play, 7.3 to 4.4. 4 touchdowns and 5 red zone chances. And again, they faced the Ravens. They faced the 49ers, the Chiefs in their previous games. When you step down in class after facing the quality competition, and they faced the 49ers in a game that they didn't play as poorly as yesterday. Though San Fran didn't play well in that game either. But certainly when you're stepping down in class, makes a big difference. And when you're stepping up in class, they've only one team left, the Chargers, one opponent left with a winning record. So there's certainly room for a late season run for Tampa. Baker, quote, "We're hoping it builds confidence. We still have a belief that we're still sitting and controlling our own destiny." Mike Evans back and healthy on the offensive side. Both starting cornerbacks, Zine and McCollum, back yesterday after the bye week. 11 different receivers caught a pass in that ball game. That's a sign of a quarterback doing good things. That being said, I like teams like in situations like Carolina. All right. That was I know they lost the game to Kansas City yesterday, but don't tell me that wasn't a confidence boost for a team that's been awful in recent years, standing toe-to-toe with the 2-time defending Super Bowl champs. And the fact that they didn't win means there's no, yay, let's go celebrate, like I'm worried about with the Titans this week. The fact they lost the game, the hunger and urgency is still there. So that tends to be a bet on spot. I like teams in general in the spot that Carolina is in. They scored 27 points versus the KC defense, only punted twice in that ball game, gained 5.8 yards per play. Bryce Young only got sacked twice. He had no interceptions. You know, this is a team that came into the game dead last in offense and 30th in total points, and they moved the ball up and down the field throughout against a quality defense. Dave Canales, quote, "Bryce is certainly making the most of his opportunities. He's making a statement to all of us, showing us he can make plays in critical areas. Did a great job extending today." They struggle a little bit in the red zone, and that does worry me in a game where they're likely to have to score touchdowns. But their arrows pointed up for Carolina right now, which is something I haven't said in, the last 2 years, at least, maybe 3.
Definitely been a while, but yeah, 2 bet-ons. Picking up what you're laying down there, Teddy, as we move down the list. 477, 478, LA Rams, New Orleans Saints. It is the Rams split line as we're talking right now, Teddy, -2.5 or -3, depending where you're shopping. 47.5 being the total. Rams at Saints from the Big Easy.
Yeah, look at line here, LA -3, 46.5. My powering number here is a pick'em on the game. The Rams, and I've upped my Saints power ratings the last couple of weeks since they fired their coach and they've won back-to-back games. They're coming off a bye. So I talked about the Saints as being a bye team on Bet On It a few weeks back. And I've got the Saints under 7.5 wins, season win total-wise. I'd love it if they lost this game. I'm not convinced they will. That being said, like I said, I have the number pick'em in my power ratings. The market's open 2.5, 46.5, and we're seeing Rams money. As you mentioned, the 3 are starting to pop. If you like LA, there is some urgency Of course, they're off a Sunday night football loss to the Eagles. They were dominated the line of scrimmage in that game. They were outgained by 2.5 yards per play and nearly 200 total yards. Stafford took 5 sacks. The Rams went 0 of 8 on third downs, and they were only competitive in the game because they went 3 of 3 on fourth downs. That being said, I'm not going to compare the Saints in the trenches to the Rams, to the Eagles in the trenches. And even with the Rams' struggles, look, the NFC West, anyone can take this division. Last place teams 5-6, first place team 6-5, 1 game separating. So there's certainly, even off the loss, some urgency for the Rams. The Saints are off back-to-back wins, Falcons and Browns, and a bye week. They too are still alive in a weak division. So both of these teams with a lot to play for. There will be some urgency in this ballgame. Loser is going to be in a little bit of trouble when it comes to staying alive. Although the Saints have already lost 7 games in a row this year, they're not. They're trying to get back into a position where they're relevant. Good game.
Next one up, 479-480 afternoon kick. The last one we're talking here with a situational handicap schedule-wise. We get Philadelphia and Baltimore, both teams traveling west to east. Baltimore at home -2.5, 50.5 being the total. I say west to east because you just mentioned the Eagles Sunday night football, and we get the Ravens Monday night football. Either way, it's Eagles at Ravens. Ravens -2.5 here, TC.
Look ahead line here, Baltimore -3, 51.5. My powering number, only 2.5 for the Ravens. I've got a fair bit of respect for Philadelphia. We're seeing 3s and 50.5s. And last night, although that wasn't a mature market, today we're seeing 2.5s and 50.5. So we've seen the Eagles get a little bit of respect off of yesterday's win, driving that number off the key number of 3. As you mentioned, situational spots. Philly off the Sunday night football win against LA. They've got a 7-game winning streak. They're on coast-to-coast travel. Some impressive stuff. Yes. When Saquon does what he did and the team rushes for 314 yards and you're outgaining them 7.1 to 4.9. And some of that was the last run of the game, that final touchdown for Philly. But, when the Eagles get their act together, they're a really good team. So is Baltimore, obviously, the Monday Night Football. And now if the Ravens lose tonight, it's going to be back-to-back losses for Baltimore. So you talk about a sense of urgency. If they win tonight, it's a short week off a satisfying win. So I think the handicap of this game changes pretty dramatically based on Baltimore winning or losing this evening. I think they're more bet on if they lose than they will be if they win, which means that it's not a scenario where you're going to bet both. Sometimes you're like, okay, if you like Baltimore tonight, bet them twice. This isn't that.
Fair enough, Teddy. As we got Sunday night football up next, guys, we got the Monday nighter. Feel free to throw out any questions. We'll probably have a couple minutes here. No bye weeks, though, so not a lot of time. Do have a couple questions in the chat. Feel free to fire away. Also in the comments below, guys, and we'll answer them on next week's show. We get San Francisco and Buffalo here, Teddy. 45.5, 46 being the total. We're seeing the Bills -7. There is 6.5 out there as the home favorite Sunday night football.
Yeah, look, and guys, I appreciate all the comments. We really love the questions. We get into the chat every week, or in the comment section every week, and reply to as many. I try to reply to everyone that takes the time to comment. Although Thanksgiving week, I can't promise that's going to happen. It's a busy week, and I got to travel in and out of Vegas, so I'm not looking forward. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing my family. I'm not looking forward to the travel for this weekend. So I was the only idiot yesterday that had the money on San Fran. I advise my clients do the same. It's as dumb a bet as I'll have all year. And it was never, they never had a chance in the game. It was over early. It wasn't anything you had to sweat. Look headline, Buffalo 3.5, 47. My powering number, Buffalo -7. The market's open 6.5/7, 46 last night. And that's still where they are today, 6.5, mostly 7s out there. There are a handful of 6.5s. That was a pretty dispiriting loss for San Fran yesterday. 16 carries, 44 yards. They couldn't run the football. 15 missed tackles before halftime with their backup quarterback in. That's the most in the NFL this season and a half. That's not a team that's dialed in and ready to play. They couldn't stop the run. Josh Jacobs, 3 rushing touchdowns, 169 yards on the ground total. I talked earlier in the show about how the defense hadn't allowed a 100-yard rusher in 55 games. Well, they did yesterday. The defense allowed 5 touchdowns and 5 red zone opportunities. They're without Brock Purdy, who may play this week. We'll have to see. They're without Trent Williams. He may play this week. We'll have to see. They're without Nick Bosa. He may play this week. We'll have to see. But San Fran got their asses kicked yesterday. Fred Warner. That's probably one of the worst ones I've been a part of. It is embarrassing. You got to take it on the chin, take it like a man, and move on. Of course, this is a 49ers defense. We think back to last year. They beat the Packers in the postseason last year. They only have 4 defensive players on the field who played in that game. You know, Warner, Gibson, Beal, and Lamar. That's it. So there's certainly some. Look, San Fran was supposed to be competing for a Super Bowl, and now they're in last place. Teams like that, when they travel east and play in a weather game, you know, you do worry. Kyle Shanahan, you have those 3 turnovers, and all 3 led to touchdowns with 21 points. You top that with the penalties and stuff. That's how you got embarrassed like that. So maybe it's a bounce back spot for San Fran. Maybe they get a bunch of guys back healthy this week. They were certainly embarrassed in the loss to Green Bay. That's as bad as I've seen the 49ers play in quite some time. The Bills, not a bet on spot here. They're off that satisfying win against Kansas City. They have a 6-game winning streak and a bye week. That's exhale. That's let's go party. That's not let's focus on the film. So I don't know that I'll be laying the touchdown with Buffalo. And note this line isn't 7.5, despite how awful San Fran looked. But we'll see the number move based on the 49ers quarterback situation. Not that Allen was awful yesterday, Brandon Allen. But they're better with Brock Purdy. And any team's better with the starters than they are with the backup.
Guys, we get the Monday Night Football. This is December 2nd, Cleveland and Denver. It is Broncos -5.5 behind Bo Nix and company. 42 being the total. Browns at Broncos from a mile high here, DC.
Yeah, look at this adjustment. Look ahead line. Denver -7.5, 41.5. My powering number is 6. The market's open 5.5, 41.5. And we're seeing 42s this morning, so a little bit of over money. But the look at of 7.5 for Denver, threw the key number of 7 down to 5.5. That speaks volumes about what the Browns did on Thursday Night Football. Perhaps their extra time to prepare for this one. But again, remember, Cleveland went 1 of 10 on third downs and 4 of 4 on fourth to beat the Steelers. They only had 25 minutes of possession. They were -2 in turnovers. They still won straight up. I think that speaks something about Pittsburgh and the spot that Pittsburgh was in. And of course, you got the Jameis Winston experiences. That was a back-breaking interception late in the fourth quarter, all right? You can't throw that pick. And yet, when all's said and done, third quality start in 4 games since taking over behind center, and they found a way to win the ball game. So, you're going to get mistakes with Winston every time, and you're going to get some big plays. As for Denver, offense didn't turn the ball over against yesterday. Cortland Sutton, another big game. He's officially Bo Nix's go-to guy. They didn't run the football, only 2.8 yards per rush, but they avoided mistakes. Sean Payton, a year ago, we don't win that game. It wasn't our best, but it was good enough. We're on to the next one. We have a lot to clean up. It was good to handle these guys for a second time. Cortland Sutton after the game, quote, "I think the tide is turning. Denver's 7-5 right now. The Broncos are in a spot where we want to be, back in the AFC West. I think it's an exciting spot to be in. Job's not finished." Denver, 5 tries a favorite this year, 5-0 against the spread. They've been very good in this role.
Got a couple minutes here, guys, for some questions in the comments below. Fire away. We'll answer them on next week's show. Also, anybody watching live, fire away in the live chat. We got Birdie in the house. Does Teddy's power rating have home field into it? Just wondering if his neutral number would be the Steelers -1.
My power rating, depending on the home field, I give from 1 to 2 points. The majority of teams, I give 1.5 for home field edge. So I'm not a home field edge guy. So what number did I have with Pittsburgh? I had Cincy 1. So my number would have Pittsburgh as a favorite, barring the home field edge.
Teddy, you were talking about Baltimore and LA tonight, -2.5, -3. It might end as a split line. I've noticed usually, particularly with marquee games and in the NFL, I wouldn't think they would kind of close, at kickoff as a split line, but do you normally see that, or will it go to 2.5 or 3 at most shops by kickoff?
Do we normally see that? No. Does it happen sometimes? Yes. It's not unheard of. It's not impossible. It's not each individual book. We talk about the markets as a whole, but each individual book is going to set their own number based on whatever action they're getting and the liabilities that they have. So, it's going to be book by book. And I haven't seen the market like across the market that boom, we're taking out all the 2.5s or we're taking out all the 3s. We saw that early in the week when they took out all the 3s and bet it down to 2.5. But now that the markets have bet back up to 3 at some shops, I'm not getting a sense that that's going to happen between now and kickoff. So it's not unheard of or impossible or any of that stuff to have a split line, even as we approach kickoff. But it's certainly not it's not unheard of.
Teddy, does anything in your handicap for the NFL change this week with Thanksgiving? The short week with Thanksgiving Day games, but anything with these teams traveling Friday or Sunday games that would affect your handicap?
So again, the Thursday night games are a little bit random. All right, they are. They're in my mind they're a little bit more random than your average game. On Thursday nights, Thursday games, we look to bet against rookie coaches and sometimes rookie quarterbacks. They have a harder time preparing and getting the game plan together for a Thursday night contest. Thanksgiving Day is not a day that I'm, we've seen the public have some very big Thanksgivings. I'll just leave it at that. It's not all right, let's fade the public every opportunity type of option, type of scenario. It's not, fading the public on Thanksgiving's been hit or miss. I'll just leave it at that.
Guys, check out Teddy Covers, WagerTalk.com. TC365, the promo code, 1 year all access for $99 a month. TC365. And then we mentioned at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, we get the 7-day all access pass. You can get that huge discount, WagerTalk.com. Get the whole week of service at a big discount. Teddy Covers, Drew Martin, two of the top NFL handicappers on the website. 5%'s going tonight. Teddy, anything else you want to throw out there for this week? Your plans? Any words of advice here for the watchers?
Yeah, look, this is a bet with your head not over it week. All right, be careful out there. That being said, it can be a great week. I love Thanksgiving week, and there's action literally all day, every day. I'll be flying out of town on a Wednesday morning. I get back on Saturday, and I'll be sitting where I sit every week, watching the NFL next Sunday, taking my notes, making my live bets, and prepping up for the opening line report. So I'll be back in Vegas on Saturday. Plenty of time for the games on Sunday. And it's important. Thank you, guys. We appreciate you. Thanksgiving time, we give thanks to all we have, and I really appreciate all the support this show has gotten, not just this year, over the many years that Drew and I have been doing it. We genuinely, thanks for watching. Enjoy the games, and good luck with your bets.
I second that, guys. He's Teddy Covers. I'm Drew Martin. That's going to do it for the show. We'll be back next Monday. Come back and join us. Comment below. Smash that like button. And, hey, happy Thanksgiving out there. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your week, guys.